active conversation with council. There may be opportunities for public comments during specific agenda items that require a public hearing, and we have 2 of those this evening, and members of the public are requested to confine their comments to questions or issues under discussion during this time. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attacks, shall not impugn the motives of any speaker, and shall at all times while in session conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or unauthorized remarks or become boisterous while addressing the council. So with that said, I would like to ask Tony, is it Tony Porter?
Close enough.
Okay. Tony, please join. Porter, forgive me.
Hello.
And Tony, could you just state your first and last name and where you reside, please?
Tony Porter, 93566 Whitwer Lane, Coos Bay, Oregon.
Thank you.
I'm just here to kind of address the slash burn that we had going on over Memorial Weekend. I feel that was a terribly irresponsible burn. It was really huge. I know from people who live around it that it was green slash that was burned, which was a terrible idea. But the fact that it was over Memorial Weekend while we had a basketball tournament going in with a bunch of young people in town, I just think that was completely irresponsible choice to make. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. I don't know who's actually in charge of that, but it's our water board and it's our town, and that just shouldn't be allowed. It's just too much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person on the list is Sue Lee. Hi, Sue. Will you please give us your first and last name and tell us where you reside?
Sue Lee, and I live in South Empire,
Okay.
Before Barview. Okay, my concern right now is the habitation that's occurring on the beach. We have a property that's right overlooking the bay, and we're just south of the Empire Boat Ramp. Right there, just as soon as you get on the beach from the Empire Boat Ramp, someone has built a huge construction. It's probably like 20 feet by, I don't know, I couldn't tell from the distance. We went down to check out the king tides, and it's just enormous, and it's all plastic around it, and I think that visitors to our area would find that intimidating. When people camp on our property, we can call the police and they come and ask them to leave. But right behind our property is 60 feet of roadway that, I mean, you can't put a road there, but it's drawn in on paper. And then there's another 2 lots, and then there's another one. The police will not chase people off of that area. And I don't know if there's anything that the city council can do to ask the police that they enforce that, because now there are official camping areas and people should not be camping there. There's another camp that's just south of the house that's south of us, and my husband has noted them hauling down dressers and things. I mean, it's a really pretty elaborate camp. He said last time he was there were at least 10 tents, sites. I don't know what these people are using when they need to use the bathroom, but I doubt that it's very sanitary for people walking the beach. And so if there's anything that can be done about that, the police made us prove that it was our land before we could call them out. And if they were camping just behind us on the 60 feet, there was nothing we could do. Okay, thank you.
Sue, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Just so the audience knows, we will take all public comment, and then I will have discussion, and council will have discussion with staff at that point. The next person on the agenda is Tracy Pierce. Tracy.
I'm bringing a guest. Rosie Thomas and I are going to be speaking together. My name's Tracy Pierce. I live at 68593 Ridge Road.
And I'm Rosie Thomas from the Bay Area Chamber, and I live at 93108 Private Lane in Coos Bay.
And I was honored enough to be asked to come work at the volunteer at the 150th celebration for Coos Bay, and Zonta and Kiwanis, United Way, Bay Area Chamber of Commerce, and Rotary, Lions Club, Downtown Association, we all took a picture, and the picture was taken by Liberty Prince, who's a volunteer, and we got this picture taken for you guys, and we want to give it to you.
And we made your official Heritage Award for being 150.
So,
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, and the next person is Karen, forgive me, Karen Cafford, do I have that right? About the dog park? Karen. Oh, sorry, I totally butchered that, I apologize.
Yeah, my name is Cam Kofod. I live at 1589 Juniper, Coos Bay.
Okay,
And I'm Cindy Peters, same address.
Yeah, we wanted to ask about getting a dog park in Coos Bay. The little tiny one by Ace Hardware is not any bigger than someone's backyard. We could have to go all the way to Bandon to go to a dog park. And I was feeling that the area in Mingus Park there, right on the corner of Commercial and 10th, that they've been clearing out would be a good area for a dog park. And it's not huge, but it's much bigger than the little tiny thing that they have by Ace Hardware. And it's really, really needed here. And it would be very used. I mean, people really would want a dog park here. And every place has a dog park except for Coos Bay, and we really, really should have one. And the one in North Bend is a little mud patch. It's not even
Yes,
something that's
not well kept.
a dog park. So, and it really would be very low cost. I mean, all it needs is a fence and you have a dog park. So, just want to ask about doing that. And did you want to say something?
You pretty much covered
Okay.
She pretty much covered everything.
So yeah, if you can get a dog park here, it really would be a very big service to Coos Bay, and at very low cost as well.
The one in Coquille and the one in Bandon is quite a big-sized dog park, and we've even driven over and taken the dogs over to Breedsport, because there's just nothing close. The one in North Bend, we tried, and it's very muddy, it's not kept at all. So it's just something that we think is needed around this area. Lots of dog lovers.
well, thank you for coming out this
thanks.
evening and
Thank
giving
you.
us that request. I sure appreciate that. So based on the comments, Chief, I think the first comment we had was about slash burning. Can you give us a little bit of a background on that and what our policy is as a city? I know we were talking about that was on water board property.
Sure. So commercial burning inside the city limits is allowed. So is residential burning as well. But commercial burning is allowed. It requires a DEQ permit for doing either land clearing or, in this case, burning of slash. The water board last summer harvested 70 acres of timber, and they coordinated with their engineer of record. I think it was Stunsner. I'm not really sure about that, but coordinated with their engineer, who made a recommendation that it be burned before it gets too damp. And the timing, I agree, was not ideal, being a holiday weekend, although it was good timing in that it was right before the rains hit. So I got a good chance to burn up most of the fuels before the rain soaked the ground and made it so that it was not burnable. This will keep them on track to be able to replant in the spring. So while it was inconvenient for a few days, it is allowed. We were not consulted, but it is a process that's permitted.
And we're typically not consulted in these instances?
Not for these things, no. Like I said, it goes through a permit process through DEQ. We're made aware of it, but they have 30 days in which to burn by their permit from DEQ, and they can burn any time within those 30 days. If we see something that's unsafe, then we can shut it down, but shutting down 70 acres of slash is next to impossible.
Okay. Nicole, I think what would be nice, and Councilor Matthews, I do see you've raised your hand, so I will reach out to you next. I think it would be nice to reach out to the water board, though, because we not only had this complaint, but I think we had several complaints that we received earlier today in regards to this, just to let them know that we have received this from concerned citizens. And I know there's never a perfect time, but I agree, over a holiday weekend seems a bit bizarre. So, Councilor Matthews, did you have a comment to make?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in as kind of the City of Coos Bay liaison to the water board. Since I'm on the water board, it did come up in the most recent meeting. We had a robust discussion, and I've asked for us to review our forestry practices, just to see if there's any way in which we could find an alternative method to dealing with the slash. One thing that had been brought up was chipping and composting in place. There's still a few, I think 7 piles left. Obviously, it's getting pretty wet right now. We are looking into the cost for chipping, and if that service is something that we could have done here locally on such a scale. It's not commonly done. Burning slash is kind of the common practice here in Coos Bay in general. So we're investigating new options, but just to kind of echo Chief Anderson's remarks, we also work with Coos Forest Protection Agency, and they were made aware. They made the call that it was fine to go. Unfortunately, we had some weather shifting, which the wind died and held it held all the smoke here locally. The first few days were okay with the burn, but it didn't work out for the last few days. So anyways, we're taking a look at it and taking those comments seriously, and hopefully come up with some possibilities for action in the future.
Thank you, Carmen. Chief Chapiner, we heard from Sue this evening about the camps on the beach and the police not going out into that one strip to address that. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a few different factors that I would need to look into and consider. We do the best we can in terms of enforcing our camping ordinance on properties that we have authorization and authority to enforce. If we do not have that authority, then we obviously can't take action. So before I speak to that, I would like to look into it, see where exactly you're referring to in terms of where that camp is located. That little area is somewhat tricky. There is some private property. There's also, I believe, some tribal property, and then there is maybe some city property as well. So I will look into it, and if it is something we can enforce, we will absolutely enforce it under the authority of our camping ordinance. And if it is partnering law enforcement agency that could maybe enforce it, we'll pass that on to them as well.
Great, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. So you'll be getting back with Sue, is that correct on that?
I can certainly reach out to you, yes.
Wonderful, thank you. And the last request was a dog park. And so, Nicole, I feel as if we've had this conversation before. I know Councillor Matthews serves on the Park Commission, but can you just give us a little background on previous conversations about dog parks in our area?
That is a great question. I do know we have talked about them in the past. I don't have a lot of depth of knowledge in like the history of those conversations, but what I can say is I think the identification of a location has been a challenge, and then the upkeep and maintenance. And it is, yes, it does seem like a very simple process to establish one, but there is that, the insurance element of liability, and so those pieces. It's worthy of us, maybe looking at that again. And it could be timely as we're stepping into your council goal setting. So, yeah, for certain, we can do some investigations so we can present that to you coming up.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate that. And last but not least, Tracy, thank you. You awarded us with this beautiful award, yet it was you who, yes, I'm talking to you, Tracy Pierce, it was you who well, you coordinated all the volunteers for the 150th celebration, serving those hot dogs and bringing everyone together. And so I really want to thank you for all of your efforts. And Rosie, thank you for having the chamber there, always supporting city events. So a round of applause to you both for your work. So, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Council, has everyone had an opportunity to review the calendar? And if so, I will entertain a motion.
I move we accept the consent calendar. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a presentation of the proclamation acknowledging the Marshfield High School volleyball team achievement, and we're very excited to have all the ladies here in the audience today, and I would love for you to come to the podium. We will read the proclamation, but we would love to have all of you right up here front and center. So Nicole, I think you'll be speaking to the proclamation.
You may have to squish it around because we may want to take a picture of you all. So first of all, thank you for joining us and giving us the opportunity to acknowledge your accomplishment. We are super proud on this side of the table here. So, proclamation. Whereas the hard work, dedication, sportsmanship, talent, and exceptional team chemistry of the 2024 Marshfield High School volleyball team has enabled these student athletes to earn a state championship title, woohoo, and whereas winning the 2024 Oregon School Activities Association Class 4A championship brought honor to the team, Marshfield High School, and the city of Coos Bay. And whereas head coach Tammy Montiel and the entire coaching staff, team members, parents, faculty, and student body at Marshfield High School were integral in guiding the team to victory through their unwavering support and...
Now therefore be it resolved, I, Joe Benetti, Mayor of the City of Coos Bay, do hereby recognize and heartily congratulate Marshfield High School and their 2024 State 4A Championship volleyball team on its outstanding accomplishment.
Ladies, congratulations. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but any comments that you'd like to make?
No. Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun. And it was great to be in the towns of, I know we played over at North Bend, but great to be in the towns of Coos Bay and North Bend and bring some tourism and people in here, and hopefully they'll come back and enjoy Coos Bay some more.
Indeed.
But thank you for the honor.
Thank you so much. Ladies, congratulations. Way to represent girl power. So well done.
Thank you.
I got this, I think.
Okay, the next item on the agenda are action items, and the first item is a public hearing for, sorry. Oh, forgive me, I was so excited to honor the ladies that we didn't get a motion to approve the proclamation. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the proclamation in recognition of outstanding achievements of the MHS volleyball team.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation acknowledging the Marshfield High School volleyball team achievement. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So, thank you, Nate, for keeping me in line. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for consideration to approve the vacation of Date Avenue east of North Front Street. And Jennifer or Jim?
Good evening. The City Council, on behalf of property owner Heidi Sauce, initiated a right-of-way vacation request for a portion of Date Avenue east of North Front Street. The existing topography and the size of the undeveloped right-of-way make it unlikely it would ever be developed for a public street. Comments were sought from all city departments, and there were no objections. Comments were also solicited from local utility companies, and there were no objections. As the vacation is within 1,000 feet of the shoreline, the city is required to seek input from the International Port of Coos Bay. The Port Commission considered and approved of the vacation application at their May 21st, 2024 Commission meeting. Staff also worked with Oregon Department of State Lands regarding the portion of right-of-way that extends beyond the shoreline. Department of State Lands requested the following language be added to the ordinance. Quote, "This vacation does not affect the right of the state of Oregon to the submerged and submersible lands for the area to be vacated, nor the public's right to use those lands for public trust purposes of navigation, commerce, fisheries, and recreation," end quote. To satisfy Oregon's statewide planning goal 17, an easement over the property for public access must be maintained, or another comparable public access point must be provided. This vacation is subject to an agreement between the city and Sauce Brothers Incorporated in deeding to the city the northern 60 feet of tax lot 200 located within lot 4 of block 4 of Bennett's addition to Marshfield. This land will be used to maintain public access to the bay. And the map that's on the screen shows the date right-of-way at the south end of the map, and at the north, you can see the property that will be negotiated, or it has been negotiated, be exchanged in trade. To date, city staff has received one email or comment, an objection from a citizen who does not support the vacation due to the Date Avenue being a public access to the bay. Staff reached out to the citizen to discuss the proposed public access that will be deeded to the city near the intersection of Fir Avenue and Front Street. If it pleases the council, hold a public hearing to take comments, and if desired, enact an ordinance providing for the vacation of Date Avenue right-of-way east of North Front Street.
Okay, I think we'll open the public hearing. Are there any comments? Okay, if there are no comments, I will close the public hearing. Jim and Jennifer, maybe I think I saw that you had the clicker. Just to be clear, we're talking about the parcel in red on the south end is where is the land we would give in trade, essentially for on the upper end of the map, the kind of zigzagged area close to the museum. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I personally, I'm pretty passionate about the area that that area is adjacent to the museum, and I think in the Front Street Blueprint Plan, one of the things that we've talked about as a council is to make sure that we preserve public access, and that allows us to create a really nice walkway and parking. Potentially, we've talked about a kayak launch there, so I think it's a really great trade. And councilors, I don't know, or Mayor Benetti, if you have any questions or comments to make in regards to this item.
No, well, I agree. You said that, the trade, I think, is advantageous to the city and us for developing that area. I know that we wanted to really make sure that we had the view area available, and this view is much greater and better for us as citizens than the date. So with us owning the property now, with the sidewalk in by the museum and our Blueprint Front Street plan, this, I think, ties in very well.
Councilors, any other comments? Councilor Matthews?
I'd just like to echo my support for this. I think this makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate the property owners for working with the community and trying to make the best option available for not just their own property goals, but for the entire community. And I think that was really generous of them. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Matthews. Councilor Kilmer?
I was just going to ask, it makes sense to me to do this trade. I think the important thing to note is that it wasn't just an ask for a vacation. It was we're going to do this. If you decide to do this, we'll give you this, which enhances what we're doing on that portion of what is being done on that portion of property. It doesn't actually reduce access for the public. It looks like we have more more land than what we're trading. But I also noticed that the water influence there is a little bit higher, and it looks like there's land mass on the portion that we're trading. And if we do decide to do some enhancements with either a kayak launch or public access, will we be able to do that in that portion of property? I don't know if there's a staff person that can answer that question.
I think we're working on that, Councillor Kilmer. So the question is, can we make improvements for public access to that area?
With appropriate permits from the agencies, state agencies and the federal agencies, that should be a possibility.
Okay, great. Also, Councillor Kilmer, just to piggyback on your comments, one of the things I do love about that area, though, are those pilings, because those pilings speak to the history of this area and what Front Street once look like, and I know that we're trying to bring it back to those glory days, so I would hope that we would never consider pulling out those pilings as they really are historical from my perspective. So I don't see any other comments from councilors, so I will entertain a motion, and then we will do a roll call. May I get a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that we enact an ordinance providing for the vacation of Date Avenue right-of-way east of North Front Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to enact the ordinance providing for the vacation of Date Avenue right-of-way east of North Front Street. Christine.
An ordinance providing for the vacation of a portion of Date Avenue located in the plat of North Marshfield in the northwest 1/4 of Section 26, Township 25 South, Range 13 West, WM, Coos County, Oregon. Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Council President DeNovo?
Aye.
Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Councilor Kilmer?
Aye.
Councilor Stevens?
Aye.
Councilor Cribbins?
Councillor Cribbins was in a location where it was pretty stormy,
bad,
so
okay.
yeah, I saw him on, he might have lost him.
With that, ordinance number 577 has been duly enacted.
Great, congratulations. Super excited for us, and thank you to Heidi Sauce for working so diligently with us, and I look forward to seeing Front Street really continuing to develop. We have a developer who helped really fast track Front Street and this council's vision, so, and I know he'll be speaking with us later in the meeting, but we thank him for all of his efforts to really help develop that area. Thank you, Greg. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider an enactment of an ordinance amending the Coos Bay Municipal Code. I think that's back to Jennifer. Oh, Chelsea, I'm sorry, forgive me. Chelsea.
Okay. So this ordinance is amending a current provision that prohibits fence heights, limits them to 4 feet in areas along the Bay and Empire and our downtown on Front Street. The intent really was to help preserve a view of the bay, but council has recently and on numerous occasions heard from property owners who have said that that limitation of 4 feet for fence is not adequate to secure their properties. They don't feel that it's doing the job for them. And so staff looked at it, and we think we can kind of have a compromise. I think it's reasonable to allow fence heights greater than 4 feet when we ensure that the fence remains what we want to call open-sided. So no more than 25% of the vision is obstructed. And we think that's doable and reasonable. And so that's what this proposed ordinance does, is removes the prohibition, allows the fences greater than 4 feet in height, but it just requires that in that case, they be open-sighted.
Okay. We will go ahead and open the public hearing on this matter. Are there any comments? Okay, we will Oh, we do have a public comment. Please, Sue, come on up.
Okay, originally the code was the fence could be solid for 4 feet. Are you taking that away?
I think the intent would be that anything higher than 4 feet
Okay.
absolutely needs to be open-sighted. You could vary from that below. That would be the intent.
Okay, I thought maybe you were going to want it visible all the way down, and my dog goes nuts over traffic. He's crazy, border collie. Oh, so that's my only question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sue. If there are no, Tracy, do you have a comment? Please, come on up.
I'm sorry, my question would be, does that mean chain link?
From our research, that 25% open-sighted does, chain link would fit that, but you could also have some, it could be different. You could have posts with kind of a wire type material
Okay,
inside. It doesn't have to be chain link only.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
lots
because
of
I would
creative
think
ways.
chain link would be,
And we currently prohibit chain link on commercial fences, can't be chain link. But in the cases that we've heard, it's residential
It's
properties
residential.
of concern, so.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, if there are no other comments, I will close the public hearing. Counselors, any comments in regards to this item? Counselor Matthews?
Yeah, I feel like the ability to have privacy fences is a good thing, and I feel like even 4 feet with a solid fence isn't quite enough, personally. Is this just for a specific area? I'm trying to figure that out. Or is this citywide?
Counselor Matthews, this is in Empire along Empire Boulevard and in our downtown corridor along Front Street and Bayshore. So on the bay side, again, the intent being that we don't want to completely block off view of the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the 4 feet thing that isn't our general code then, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just a application of the general code. Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds good to me.
Thank you, Counselor Matthews. Any other questions, Mayor Benetti or counselors? Okay. I think it's a great idea. I do like the fact that it protects the viewscape, so the solution that you came up with, and so thank you to staff. With that said, I will entertain a motion.
Oh, I've got one more thing.
Okay.
As a suggestion. I'm wondering if there's a way to word this ordinance a little bit so that the question of the first 4 feet doesn't have to have the 25% visibility rule. Just because when it comes down to like the intent of an ordinance or any of those rules, it can be, I guess, absorbed or interpreted differently from person to person, so it might be better to just spell it out, like first 4 feet could be solid and then anything above that. Do you think that makes any sense?
Is that something that can be addressed in policy? Otherwise, we're back to the drawing board to put this ordinance out there. Again, hold a public hearing, and this doesn't resolve the issue that the homeowners have.
This is Nate McClintock. It could be interpreted through policy. At the same time, if on the motion you wanted to amend the language of the ordinance, you could do that as well.
Counselor Matthews, are you comfortable making a motion, amending it in such a way that it does not have to go back out?
Let me see if I can do this. I would like to enact the ordinance amending Coos Bay Municipal Code 8.10.0703 to allow fences exceeding 4 feet in height with the requirements that those fences shall be open-sided above the 4-foot line to preserve a view of the water.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I got excited, you guys. This is a roll call one, so Christine.
An ordinance amending Coos Bay Municipal Code 8.10.0703 and Ordinance 99 regulating public nuisances as amended by Ordinance number 66, Ordinance number 400, Ordinance number 409, and Ordinance 498. Counselor Matthews.
Aye.
Counselor DeNovo.
Aye.
Mayor Benetti.
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Stevens.
Aye.
Ordinance number 578 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consideration for approval to enter into a developer agreement for a 400-unit housing development. Nicole.
Yes, thank you. So going to give us a little bit of history here to just understand the significance of where we are sitting here today. So in early 2021, city staff began working with a developer at the time, which was Red Moon Development, as they planned this 400-unit housing development off of Lindy Lane. The land use process was started and preliminary agreements for the cost sharing of the infrastructure construction and improvement were prepared. While housing is noted as a priority in Coos Bay, and the developer had the intent to complete the proposed project, it was never actually able to move forward. Recently, a new developer was engaged in the project and is gaining momentum. Timber Cove LLC has taken over the development role and continues with the previously completed work. An outstanding element was those developer agreements for the sanitary sewer infrastructure construction, that being a pump station and force main, and the public street infrastructure improvements, Lindy Lane Culvert, and Ocean Boulevard. City staff has been working with the developer to finalize the two agreements. A significant challenge in that process has been the increased cost of these infrastructure portions of the project over the last several years. Additionally, this developer has intention to keep these homes at a price point that will help them sell more readily. In order to do so, the estimated total infrastructure costs of over 10 million, and actually I think they're sitting closer in the a little over 12 million range, may make this extremely difficult. With the plans to build out 30 to 40 homes per year on average, city staff has been researching funding options which might assist with the construction costs for the pump station and force main, and thereby reduce those home prices in that range that we're hoping to meet. So those financial resources include federal appropriations, speaking to our representatives, senators at the federal level, same at the state level for a state appropriation, looking for federal and state grants, foundation grants, and as a last resort, potentially looking at government loans that we have access to. The city is currently working with CCD Business Development Corp. to complete and submit an EPA grant, which could provide up to $4 million of the necessary pump station and force main construction costs. This grant application is going to be submitted tomorrow. That's our understanding, and we're hopeful it's a very robust application with a number of projects here in this community that really meet the EPA's goals. So we're hopeful that it's going to be successful. We should receive notification of award. We're going to say notification of award because we believe we're going to be successful in the next several months. And again, while we feel fairly confident in the application, given the scope of the project and the elements added for the limited number of low-income affordable housing units, that's a piece of that grant application. It is a very competitive process. It's a process available across the nation. So the design for the pump station, you're going to be speaking, just following this, we're going to be asking to move that forward. And that timeline we're working on tightening that up again. We want to make sure we're hopefully aligning the completion of that process with house build out. So what you are being asked tonight, we have been working on those agreements. We believe they're in final format. I think all parties are in that agreement. Nate's been helping, and the developer is here tonight, potentially if there's any questions. But we do believe what you are seeing before you is what our final format, and that is presenting the city's interest to help support the pump station and force main up to $4 million. And we do believe that the developer has intention to get through that 150 first phase. Once past that, hit that second 250 phase, and there's a mechanism by which we can work on an alternative if there's some struggles in there. The agreements kind of speak to some of that. So I'd take any questions, and then also I think Greg Jorobot is here. If there's any questions, he might be better suited to answer.
Great, thank you. We'll keep you on standby, Greg. And Nicole, the first question I have is, if Greg weren't here this evening, and we've prioritized housing as one of our top priorities, what I think I understand is, if we want any additional housing, and the number of housing units we're talking about is potentially 400, we're going to need to provide a new pump station. So we need that.
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's other elements along the line, the pump station and the force main. We will be looking at downstream, improvements, which we can do over time to the system. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that will make this work. This is just the most significant. We are asking this developer to come in day one and put a large outlay of capital in which there's not another funding source that a private entity can get access to, because it's going to become a public piece of infrastructure. So it's a real challenge to ask for that big heavy lift right up front. They often, and he can probably speak to that, they're able to kind of work those out over the life of the project. This, however, needs to be in place before that first home is sold.
Great. The other question, well, I have a lot of questions. Actually, I'm going to, I know Mayor Benetti has done a lot of work on this as well. So Mayor Benetti, do you have any comments that you want to make before we invite Greg up to the podium?
Sure. A little back history. So, Greg stems from development in Coos Bay Village and also down there by past Ace Hardware. And I remember him coming to me and saying he'd like to do some more development. Can I suggest any? And on commercial side, and I suggested the housing project. And I think we're fortunate Greg took this on and was able to bring it forth to this point. As you know, we are suffering with housing, and it's causing all kinds of issues in our community, from low-income housing all the way up to providing workforce housing and jobs in our area. With a 1% vacancy factor, we're struggling, and I know this council and staff has been struggling to try to get development in so many ways. So I think this is important for us to step forward and take this pump station and pay for this. I believe that it is our obligation, and this will be our infrastructure. We pay for and build other pump stations, and so in this case, I don't see it any different. I know it's going to be, something that we would rather get a grant for, and hopefully we will. But 400 homes in this time frame, in this industry, and in this time that we need it, it was going to fill a huge issue for us and fill a void that's necessary. So anyway, I'm just in very much support and glad that we have somebody that is willing to move this forward. And after it's been stalled for, 3 years now? So, anyway.
Good. Councillor Kilmer.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, since I've been on council since 2016, communities across the state have been working on the housing issues and really the crisis that we're facing when it comes to having availability. And they were looking at always, even back then, how can we incentivize the development of housing to take some of the pressure off. And I think, the price point of the homes has been a topic of discussion throughout the community. But we have to remember that when people who are renting or staying in homes that are starter homes, those aren't available for the folks who may be on, different income levels. So by having housing on the market, this helps alleviate some of the issues that folks who would like to see some additional workforce housing, we need housing. And I think this is right in line with some of the steps that we've taken with the MUPD and other things to help help developers get this process done.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews?
Yeah, I see this as public infrastructure, and we're going to be overseeing it, and I want to be a part of, I want this council to be a part of moving the ball forward in terms of housing, and I think that this is a spot where I see us being able to do that, and I know it's a great deal of money. Hopefully we are successful. We are going to be successful, to speak positively, and yeah, I'm in support.
Great. Councillor Stevens, any comments?
Yeah, I just want to mention that I've always said that our housing crisis is going to take at least 18 different solutions. I don't ever think there's going to be one white knight. I also have seen some stories online referring to Reaganomics. This is, Reaganomics is why we're here today. And so this is not about Reaganomics. This is about, we know that people are going to be moving into our area. We know we need workforce housing. We know we need multiple workforce housing solutions, and this is part of it. This is not a Reaganomics solution. So I just want to make that point.
Thank you. And Councillor Cribbins and I spoke earlier. He was concerned he wouldn't have service this evening, so he is in support of this project as well. It's very rare. I've actually challenged this community of not waiting for the big white knight to save this community, but I will say on record that Greg Drobot, you have been the white knight when it comes to development of Front Street, and I think you're a large part of why it looks like it does today. And the fact that you would do this project to bring 400 homes to our community, affordable homes, and your thoughtful approach to it, 30 to 40 homes per year. If there's more demand, you'll build more. I can't thank you enough for your commitment to this community. We are indeed very fortunate to have such a big fan, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. I don't know if you have any comments to make. I think the council feels very comfortable with this project, but I don't know if there's any remarks that you would like to make before, please. Okay. And Carmen, after Greg speaks, I will go back to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm humbled by that introduction and all the background. I love this community. As you've seen with my past projects, I've put my money where my mouth is. I've taken risk. I've developed, and I want to continue to develop. And housing is a departure from what I've done over the last 5 or 6 years, but I've done housing development in the past. I did a larger development in Bandon. And it's very clear, not only from what you've said, but even with my tenants that I've worked with, to a man, they've all said they've had a hard time hiring because once they put a job offer and offer a great position, someone's really excited, they come down here, there's nowhere for them to live. So it really is affecting everyone in ways that you wouldn't expect right out of the gate. I really do believe that I can produce well-built, affordable housing, but there are a lot of risks. There's a lot of unknowns. And with a pump station that's going to cost, probably close to $5 million all said and done, if you think about it, that has to be done before I can sell the first home and start to recoup. So that makes that first lot $5 million cost, and that's cost prohibitive. So I really do appreciate the consideration to partner with me again on another project, and I think it's going to be great for the community. It's, there's always things that can come up. I didn't know that I was going to be developing in the middle of COVID with Coos Bay Village, but I'm used to finding creative ways to do things, and I think every good developer can kind of take it multiple different angles to get the job done. So yeah, again, I'm honored and I'm glad that we can work together on another project.
Thank you very much. Councillor Matthews?
Yeah, just departing from the specifics of this plan and kind of echoing your assessment of Greg Drobot and the Timber Cove LLC with Councilor DeNovo. I just kind of wanted to throw my 2 cents in there as well. As a tenant who's worked with Mr. Drobot through COVID, he was extremely helpful and creative through a very difficult time to construct and develop, and I think he has a lot of successes in this community, and I think that track record should hopefully put anybody's mind at ease if they're looking at this and wondering, who are we investing in? He's got a great track record, as does his partner Daniel Graham. I'd say both of them have just been extremely helpful to the city, this community in general, and I just want to thank them for their efforts and their time and their investments and their energy. So it's something that I think does need to be recognized by us, and I would like to echo your accolades for them.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Nicole, one other comment?
I just had one additional item. I think there's been some news out in the public. I think Greg's had a few interviews with some media organizations, and it is my understanding and belief that that effort has resulted in contact from the governor's office today. Hopefully they want to have a conversation tomorrow. So again, I'm hoping it's all positive. They're reaching out to see the ways that they might interact and help in this build out. So thanks for lifting that up in front of people who might need to see it. So.
Great, thank you. It's getting windy, and I really want this motion to pass, so we're going to go quickly. Can I get a motion from the council?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to finalize the agreement and enter into agreements with the developer of Timber Cove housing development for cost sharing related to infrastructure construction and improvements. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next item to wrap this all up is consideration to approve professional services agreement for the design of the public pump station to serve a proposed 400-unit single-family residential subdivision. Jennifer.
Thank you. In 2021, city staff contracted with the Dyer Partnership to prepare planning level documents for the pump station and force main that will serve the Timber Cove subdivision. This effort was completed, and it was agreed between the city and the developer that the design would be placed on hold until the development and maintenance agreements were finalized. As you just heard, that is pending. So approximately 2 weeks ago, staff was directed to move forward and obtain a scope of work to take that planning level effort to final design. So we contracted with Dyer again. They provided a scope and fee for this final design in the amount of $349,900. So Dyer originally stated that the project, the design would be completed no later than June 2025, but staff, Nicole, has been coordinating with Dyer, and they think that they can beat that by 3 months. So March 2025 is when that's anticipated. So the effort has been partially funded already in the approved 2025 budget. The approved amount was $225,000. The city recently finished the audit. There is about an additional $1 million in carryover. We're proposing to use those funds to fill in the deficit, and then the rest will just go into emergency unplanned.
Okay, great. Councillor, any questions?
I have a few. So, Jennifer, this is something that was proposed that we heard Nicole, the development plan on this prior to this. We just are starting this back up again. Am I correct?
Correct.
And this is, we got 20% build out design at this point?
Yes, the planning level plans equate to about 20% of final design.
And so we're trying to get to 50% by March, or we're trying to get to the thing totally built out or designed by
To
March?
100%, yep. Plans and
Okay.
specifications for construction.
So is there any chance to get the 50% designed sooner so that some of these parts can be ordered? Because I understand they're going to take some time to get here.
That's correct. They plan on having that preliminary list in February, again with the final list in March.
Okay, I sure hope that Dyer understands that we need this time frame, and any extensions would really be not acceptable as far as I'm concerned, so hopefully they can stick to that time frame.
And Mayor Benetti, I think what you're saying is because we need parts, and parts take, I think, up to a year, if I understand that correctly. Trying to get this done sooner versus later is going to be critical to the success of this project, of the housing project. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and then as you heard Greg say, he can't sell a home until this pump station's done. So I think time is of the essence in many ways. And this, the crux of it is the design of this pump station so we can get this forward. Remember, they're going to be building the pump station, so they need to get the design so they can order the parts and start getting them here.
So Jennifer, I assume that you've stressed the concerns that we have in order to make sure that this happens in the time frame that we want it to.
Yes, so that was discussion we had, actually had last Friday, and really what happened is they rethought how they could work through the design process and push the things that might hold things up a little bit out in order to get this list that Greg's going to need. So originally, March was that point at which they could maybe get that. We're looking out February, and we're going to try again on Friday to see if we can get a little bit more squeaked out of that. So,
I think they've heard you, Mayor Benetti. With that said, I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the professional services agreement to the Dyer Partnership for the final design of the pump station that will serve the proposed Timber Cove subdivision for an amount not to exceed $402,385, which includes a 15% contingency.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yay, I think
and
that...
I just want to thank the staff for all their hard work and diligence on this. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you to staff and thank you to Greg. And I want us to clap. 400 houses is pretty exciting. So. Okay, the next item on the agenda this evening is consideration of the Oregon National Flood Insurance Program, Endangered Species Act. Tells you there's more to read there, but I'm just going to say, take it away.
Okay, thank you. And I am going to just put up a slideshow so we have something to look at. Let's see here. Back. Okay, so we started this conversation at council's work session on October 22nd. This is a follow-up. It's just for those who are tuning in tonight. We're dealing with Oregon National Flood Insurance Program, Endangered Species Act integration, and some standards coming down the pipes that the city is going to be required to implement. So last time we talked, we went over some history. I guess I want to call out, I added on this slide in 2018, just a note that when the legal actions that were taking place with FEMA first kind of started, and FEMA was asked what was their preferred pathway to deal with this, they had said that they would implement a nationwide programmatic response that is this, what we talked about, that alternative fourth pathway, relying on the current adopted floodplain regulations, the current adopted Code of Federal Regulations, and having communities enforce ESA compliance through permitting. And also, I'll just call out, last time it was thought that the city would have to, we know that we have to select a pathway and report that by December 1st, but it was thought we didn't have to start implementing it until January 1, 2025. Since that time, it's been clarified that not only do we have to select the pathway, we also need to implement it December 1st, 2024. So this year, the community will see changes to the way we regulate development in our floodplain. I just included the map again just to show All the highlighted green and blue and red parcels on this map, those are all the properties in our floodplain, and that would be affected by the changes coming our way. So what we got is PICM pathways, pre-implementation compliance measure pathways. Pathway 1 is adopting Oregon's NFIP ESA model ordinance, and I'm noting that pathway, it assumes we are impacting threatened species habitat, and it requires mitigation off the back. Pathway 2 is we require a permit-by-permit habitat assessment and mitigation. That too assumes an impact to the threatened species and requires mitigation. And then we have Pathway 3, prohibit all development in the floodplain. It's assuming an impact and it stops development. So we move on to this alternative Pathway 4. It's a reliance on the current basis of our floodplain code, 44 CFR 60.3 sub A sub 2. It ties the impacts and mitigation requirements to ESA incidental take permitting. So that the federal agency currently has a ESA incidental take permit. The communities are currently responsible to ensure that any work in a floodplain development, if it's going to be done and it needs an ESA incidental take permit, that it gets that permit before development takes place. So that's all kind of currently in our adopted code. If we were to follow this pathway, some of the implications, it's not a technically approved pathway by FEMA. Not to say that they haven't said that it is a technically legal pathway. It's not approved under their Section 7 consultation with the National Marine Fisheries Service. That pathway, again, it relies on our current adopted standards, the current Code of Federal Regulations. I'll just reiterate that this was what FEMA had suggested, presented as the way they would deal with it, ensure communities are enforcing this provision. Talking about the risk, FEMA, of following this pathway, FEMA...
Can we back up? I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, Chelsea. Just for those who this is new to them.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, you were given this information just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And we were told that we had to have a plan in place by December 1st.
That's correct. I think
Okay.
we got this information June or July of 2024, July.
And we were still getting information as recently as a few weeks ago. Is
As
that correct?
October 22nd.
Okay, and we recognize that this has a significant impact on this community as outlined in the map.
Absolutely, yes.
So when you last spoke to us, we had 3 pathways, and this 4th pathway, I think the League of Oregon Cities was doing some work in this space, and I know you're going to talk to it, but I just want people to understand we have not had this information for a long time, and we're doing our best to have a pathway that's the least obtrusive, so to speak, or and that is approved by Nate. And so I want everyone to understand that before you go further and discuss Pathway 4. So.
Thank you, Council President. That's all true, and we're all still learning, and there's probably still question marks no matter what we do. So we're just trying, this is a best guess, a best course of action based on what we know and what we feel is best for the community. I've asked FEMA about this, and last time we met, it was, let's do some more research into Pathway 4. And so I asked FEMA, if the city reports back, this is what we're doing, they've suggested that technically is in compliance with our adopted code, FEMA regulations. It just would not fall under their umbrella, Section 7 consultation kind of coverage, as that might be. And also, maybe we pick Pathway 4. There's the chance that a year from now, when all the legal action is done and complete, that FEMA officially takes the habitat assessment, no net loss standards, and implements those in their Code of Federal Regulations. We would maybe at that time then have to do that, change course. It also might be that we pick Pathway 4 and decide somewhere along the line we want to go back to permit by permit. That's totally an option, and both Pathway 2, permit by permit, and Pathway 4, just following our current code, neither option requires a code amendment. So if we were to change our minds about what we want to do between one or those two, then we can simply make the change, notify FEMA, notify the public of the differing requirement upon permitting. Some of the things I just wanted to note, the Pathway 4, it relies on a standard of take, which really is a hard standard. It is, are you harming, are you killing a species? And it's maybe an easier answer to get to than Pathway 2, which relies on no net loss, and it's saying, is there likely damage to occur? And that's harder to say no. And so in that scenario, FEMA is wanting us to assume an impact, implement mitigation. Either scenario, I believe lots of the engineering companies in our local area can do a determination or an analysis that we need. The Pathway 4 is a much simpler analysis, but I think that's possible. Again, we can implement it without amending the code. Regardless of what we do, we're going to have to change our current permitting processes. So I'm working on that and getting a new application, information out to the public. Regardless of what we do, I want council to consider adopting by policy resolution a list of activities that are exempt from the habitat assessment, the no net loss standards, and then some exempt from floodplain regulations. Currently, we permit everything because FEMA has said all activities in the floodplain require permitting and review. They've since come out with a list of these lists on the screen. The green, both lists on left and right, no longer the activities listed there don't require habitat assessment, no net loss standards, and they don't, neither of those lists require those. And then the list on the right is a list that would still require floodplain permitting. Those on the left, you could get away with no floodplain permitting. So, for example, the routine maintenance to landscaping, normal maintenance of above and below ground utilities and facilities. Those are things that today we are asking utility companies and homeowners, business owners to come in and permit. If we were to adopt this list, they would not have to go through the floodplain permitting or worry about the habitat assessment. If we adopt this list, no matter what we do, you're still going to have the larger developments have to deal with that. They typically do anyways, but you still have the person who wants to put a fence in downtown. They're going to have to go through the analysis of how is this impacting the threatened species before they can get a permit. So I just wanted to give that information because I think this is an important piece no matter what we do, that we kind of document that we agree these activities can be exempt. So really just
wrapping it up.
Wrapping up as fast as I can.
No, take your time.
No. So we want to tonight, as best we can, select a pick-em pathway. Once we do that, I'll report it to FEMA, and then we'll begin implementing it. I want to note a lot of talk and attention has been given to Tillamook County, who is also considering this very diligently. They met and kind of considered the idea, but they've not yet decided. I think they plan to do that on the week of Thanksgiving. I can say the city of North Bend selected permit by permit. Coos County selected permit by permit. But there are communities out there considering this Pathway 4. And on that note, before I stop talking, there's a group of attorneys and jurisdictions that are hoping to sue FEMA in the biological opinion and pick'ems, and they've asked if our city council would want to participate in that litigation, specifically by making contributions to a litigation and legislative fund and participating in group meetings. So I just want you to be aware that that's been asked of council, and if there's any interest or not, I can pass that on.
So no matter what decision we make, if we do pick Pathway 4, that's a separate ask, I assume?
Correct.
Okay. There's a lot to digest there. I do assume that Nate has reviewed all of this and feels comfortable on Pathway 4?
Yeah, I do. Last time we had the meeting, I was more in line with the permit by permit, but the more I looked into it, and I had an opportunity to talk to, I think it's Molly Lawrence, the attorney who's kind of spearheading the opposition to this process, the one who's has suggested option 4. And I've looked at the statute, the FEMA statutes that FEMA's relying on to force us to take one of these 3 choices. And frankly, it almost mirrors option 4. So my recommendation would go option 4. One thing you do have to bear in mind, of course, is that what we're trying to do here is ensure that our community still has the availability for flood insurance, and which is the program by FEMA. And theoretically, I don't think it would happen, but theoretically they could say, well, we're not going to provide flood insurance to you if you don't take one of these 3 options. Of course, as she has pointed out, we could change our mind if we had to.
Okay. So. And can we pivot that quickly if they were to bring that forth? And
we would let you know.
Okay. Okay, great. So Chelsea, I assume your recommendation is Pathway 4.
I too am comfortable with Pathway 4 right now.
And what I think I've also heard you say is there's no other city currently who is on the coast picked Pathway 4.
None that I'm aware of. They're all still contemplating.
Okay.
So we might take the lead.
As the largest city on the Oregon coast, it would seem only appropriate that we would take the lead on this. Councilors, I imagine, or Mayor Benetti, you have comments in regards to this or questions? Councilor Kilmer?
Yeah, I just had a question. As far as development goes, this is probably the least cost to a developer or to a property owner that's trying to do work, as opposed to the other 3. Obviously, the one that would not allow any development, for me, is not an option. So the other 2, this you know, we're trying to facilitate and protect at the same time, and so Pathway 4 covers both of those.
Chelsea?
Yes, I feel like that's correct. Pathway 4 is the least impactful to our developers and communities, the most efficient means of permitting development and effective at doing what FEMA is asking us to do.
Okay, Councilor Matthews?
I don't have much. I'm still trying to digest it also. Pathway 4 is looking like my preferred route.
Mayor Benetti?
Yeah, there's so much to digest. Chelsea, myself, and Nicole and Nate have been involved in many meetings and discussions at the LOC conference. This was a big topic. I can tell you, meeting with the other mayors, they're all of the coast are very much interested in going in this path. Molly Lawrence, a firm, I can tell you, she also sued FEMA in 2017. So she's not new to this game or new to FEMA. I feel that we're being stronghold by FEMA. This is very unfortunate. As Chelsea mentioned, this is going to affect 78% of our residential and 40% of our commercial. We just got done pushing for a 400-unit development for housing, and we need more, and we got to worry about dealing with this. This it goes and it impacts. They want us to deal with a 100-year floodplain plus 17 feet with no impact. I mean, 0 impact. So this is just critical. I mean, and on top of it, Chelsea, am I correct, and Nate, maybe in Nicole, this is only affecting 3 states, am I right? Washington, California, and Oregon. So the rest of the states in this nation aren't having to deal with this.
Yeah, that's correct. Right now, Washington has similar rules. California is working on it, same as we are. But FEMA is essentially, I think, using Oregon as the maybe poster child for the rest of the country.
Yeah, but either way, even if we're only opposed to trial and we move forward, the point is, I think we need to push back. It's time that and I think Bandon, isn't the city of Bandon also considering this, Nicole?
Yes.
So the thing is, if we don't, it's going to really be a detriment to us. And so I think that we need to do whatever we can. I believe that the city of Coos Bay should participate in the litigation and challenge the buyout and the Peckmans. And, financially, I can't see us being able to participate much in this suit, but I think it would help if we could just participate in name to go along with this. And also being a group, I think gives us a stronger position, I believe, Nate.
I agree.
So, Nate, these are things that have come up for me and I thought about. I know there was a Chevron ruling by the Supreme Court that really challenged these agencies to be able to take this kind of action. Does that come into play at all?
I really don't know, to be off the top of my head. I'm kind of doubtful of that, but, one thing to be considered with the new administration coming into office coming in January, I wouldn't anticipate an immediate change in FEMA's tactics or policies, but in the long term, there may well be. Because we have to bear in mind that what we're talking about now is interim, and it's like 2026, just really not too far from now, when they're going to have the permanent, you have no choice, this is what you need to do, and we don't know what that's going to look like.
Right. So along those same lines that we just got talked about, new administration coming in, but also with the existing one, I would suggest that we write our legislators, our Congresswoman, Val Hoyle, and our senators, and asking them to write a letter to the president and take an executive order stopping this type of action. I'm not sure if it would do any good, but I think it's something that we need to try to participate in and get them to bring this forth, and maybe we could get some, maybe we get lucky. Who knows? But anyway, those are my comments.
Councillor Stevens, any comments?
Yeah, one of the things I'm sure people have heard me say often is that we are relationship rich and resource poor. And I am so proud to be part of a council that is willing to get out in front and be first. And I think one of those situations that we need to be first, we need to be out in front. And I agree with the rest of the council that we need to push back on this situation.
Great, thank you, Councillor Stevens. Okay, with that said, we have a motion before us. I think I would ask for a motion. I think we should keep the request separate for if we want to get, I think, Chelsea, if you could provide more information about being part of that lawsuit, or I think I'm saying that correctly, that would be great for a future meeting. But councillors, I have a motion. I would sure entertain one.
I move we implement pre-implementation compliance measure pathway number 4 and adopt resolution 24-34 exempting listed activities regarding floodplain development permitting.
Second.
Okay, sorry, I said that incorrectly. Now I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Chelsea, you get to brag that we are the first, and I thank you and the staff and Nate for all of your work on this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is consideration to award the 2024 Spring Streets Project. Jennifer.
Thank you. So if I can ask Christine to bring back up that PowerPoint presentation, we can show you some exhibits. Earlier this year, staff presented several transportation projects to council for consideration. Council agreed with the selected transportation projects, and staff has been moving forward with design and construction. The 2024 Spring Streets project was one of those projects, but staff is bringing this back to council because the bids came in higher than the engineer's estimate. So just to recap, the 2024 Spring Streets project has 2 street sections proposed for reconstruction. The first section is Central Avenue between Ocean Boulevard and 11th, and I have it up there. And then the second section is along South 9th Street between Central Avenue and Anderson. So on November 7th, bids were publicly opened. 3 bids were submitted. Johnson Rock was the low bidder with a bid of $353,343.20. So the engineer's estimate for this project was approximately $333,000. While the low bid was higher than the engineer's estimate, it is the opinion of staff and the engineer that the city received a competitive bid. Staff has seen increase in bid pricing over the course of the past several years. If the project is delayed, it is staff's expectation that the bid will only escalate. So funding for this project is proposed to come from the Fund 2 Construction Streets. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
If we approve this one, will this begin, I assume, next spring, or?
I know the name is a little weird. It's just we started the project in spring, but it will start within 30 days.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful. Councilors, I know we've already talked about this before. Any questions or comments? Okay, being that there, Councilor Kilmer.
Oh, I was just going to make the motion that
Oh,
we award
wonderful.
the 2024 Spring Streets project to Johnson Rock Products for an amount not to exceed $406,344, which includes the 15% contingency.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to award the 2024 Springs project to Johnson Rock Products for the amount not to exceed $406,344, which includes a 15% contingency. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is consideration, Jennifer, it's back to you. Consideration to approve an emergency contract to repair the wastewater treatment plant to outfall.
Okay. So the city has a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Permit, or NPDES permit, for each wastewater treatment plant. So the city has 2 plants, one on the west side and one on the east side. Plant 2, which is located on the west side, permit required the city to complete an outfall inspection no later than January 2023. So the inspection was performed and submitted to DEQ. The inspection shows significant deficiencies in the outfall diffusers. So a diffuser is important because it disperses the treated and disinfected water over a wide area, thus diluting it in the receiving water, in this case, Coos Bay. The area of dilution is called the mixing zone. So once staff was informed of the deficiencies, a request for qualifications was advertised to find an engineering team for the design of the new outfall and obtain regulatory approvals. In summer 2023, the city contracted with Jacobs for pre-design efforts. The existing outfall was originally constructed in 1973 and then extended in, it was originally constructed in 1973 and extended in 1990. Due to its age, size, and the newer regulatory requirements, rehabilitation of the existing outfall was not an option. So a new outfall pipe was proposed by Jacobs. Pre-design is in its final stages, and it was anticipated that the final design was to commence fall of 2024, with construction planned in 2027. So in addition to working on the design for the outfall, Plant 2's NPDES permit expires March 31st, 2025. And it expires, it's a 5-year cycle, so every 5 years we have to renew. So part of that renewal process, we have to request to DEQ 6 months prior to that date. So staff completed that request in September. Through recent discussions with DEQ, it was learned that since the outfall is deficient, DEQ would assume that there is no mixing zone and thus apply more stringent effluent limits and testing requirements until the outfall was repaired. In speaking with the consultant hired to aid the city during the extensive permit renewal process, they advised the city to perform an interim repair on the existing outfall to avoid potential expensive chemical and testing costs that would be necessary to meet the new effluent limits based on a non-existent mixing zone. So at this time, staff has suspended the design of the new outfall and directed Jacobs to investigate an interim repair that would achieve a mixing zone that would not adversely impact the effluent limits of the new permit. So Jacobs has provided the city with a technical memorandum showing analysis to support that interim repair will create the mixing zone needed to have proper dilution to meet water quality standards for fish and human health. Jacobs reached out to a contractor, Ballard Marine, that specializes in outfall marine construction to review the design and provide cost estimates for the interim repair. This cost estimate is between $80,000 and $100,000. If council approves the interim repair, it has to be completed by February 15th, 2025, due to the regulatory in-water work window. So staff is recommending award of this project directly to Ballard Marine under Section 11B titled Emergency Contracts in excess of $100,000 under the Public Contracting Resolution 24-13. By awarding this contract under this section, council would be preserving public funds by not spending extra dollars on chemicals and testing. This section also allows for direct appointment. While typically competitive bidding is preferable, this type of underwater construction is unique, and the city has had past success with Ballard Marine. Also, there is that pending in-water work window that's going to expire in February. So staff is recommending the council approve the construction of the interim repair with a 15% contingency for a total cost not to exceed $115,000. And staff will continue to work with Jacobs and Ballard to do value engineering.
You know, wastewater is my least favorite topic, so let's see if I can understand this.
Okay.
What I think I've heard is that we've had an outfall failure, and we were working to actually get a new outfall built. But in what we've discovered is that we are out of compliance, and so you're proposing that we do this contingency project that will help us get in compliance. And then when will we resume fixing the outfall?
It's a good question. So this will get us into the new permit, and then the engineer, this is just a repair, so the engineer's not going to last the 20 normal years. So what we're proposing is that we start design up through the course of the next 5-year cycle with construction anticipated before it's over.
Say that one more time, so within 5 years?
Within 5 years.
Okay, and then the other question, perhaps I should have asked in 2016, it was, I think, the first thing before us to approve. Why didn't we just get this fixed back in 2016 when we built wastewater treatment plant 2?
Well, one of it has to do with cost, but we thought we could repair it. We made the repair. It is just an underwater, very harsh environment, and it's an old pipe.
So it was an old pipe from 1970. We made the repair in 1990, or did we make
We
the
extended it in 1990.
Okay.
And they probably had to extend it further out due to regulatory requirements.
Okay. All right, that answers all my questions. Councilors or Mayor Benetti?
You asked my question, Council President DeNovo, so I think so we have, Jennifer, we have to review it in 5 years, or we have to have it completed in 5 years?
That's a good question. I think if we had the design done in 5 years, then we can plan construction and we could show DEQ that we're moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kilmer?
I think this is, you know, you said it's one of your least favorite things, but it is probably one of the most things that that people think is important, and I agree that we need to get this done. It buys us time as well.
I agree. Any other comments from councilors? Councilor Matthews?
Not really here, just appreciate staff working hard on this to figure out the best path forward.
And we feel confident, Jennifer, that we can have all this done before February.
With this emergency procurement, yes.
Okay, fabulous. Councilors, I'll entertain a motion, excuse me.
I'll move that we approve the contract to Ballard Marine to repair the wastewater treatment plant 2 outfall for $115,000, which includes a 15% contingency.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the contract to Ballard Marine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. On a separate note, I know that the we don't have a certified vote yet, but I do see that we have Jacob Niebergall in the audience, who I think once certified will be sitting at this dais. And so Jacob Drew was very well informed, Councilor Farmer, on wastewater, so I'm tasking you with that. Wonderful. Okay, Nicole, I think the next item is you. Oh, no, sorry. The next item is a discussion of the next steps for the Coos Bay Public Library. Nicole.
And I'm going to start us out with that. Just to give a little bit of background again, over the last several years, we've been working through several pieces of addressing the failure of the current facility for the library. And that being identification of the preferred location. We did some development of some preliminary design for what the new facility might look like, and then looking for funding. The most recent of that effort included a $30 million bond measure, which was placed on the November 5th ballot to rebuild the library in its current location. Unfortunately, we are all now aware that the bond measure did not pass. However, that does provide us with the opportunity to discuss and determine what next steps might be. There's obviously a lot of ways in which you could go, and so I just have some potential ideas out here. I do think we have a number of library folks in the audience here, but perhaps we reform our library steering facilities committee. That they kind of helped us get to the place that we were as far as location and preliminary plans. We definitely can do, some community engagement and outreach. We might consider obtaining a current evaluation of the stability of the building, rethinking maybe a co-location opportunity. We at one time had discussed potentially co-locating with the dispatch center. Now that's not a necessity. Maybe looking at alternatives that have funding mechanisms out there right now, such as co-locating with housing and or childcare facility. And potentially considering an alter design or a multiple smaller pocket library facilities. And then finally, contemplating a capital fundraising campaign. Again, those are just some initial ideas, definitely looking for some guidance on what council would advise as next steps.
Well, I know that I would like to thank those in the audience who participated, not just this time, but the many times trying to get this across the finish line. And I'm disappointed that, unfortunately, that didn't happen in this election. I know for me personally, and then I will not allow, but I will ask my fellow councilors to comment. We've talked about that building being in a really bad place, and we've heard reports about it sinking, and there have been others in the community that have disputed that. And I think, if I remember correctly, that's about a 10-year-old report. So my big concern is the staff and keeping the staff safe. And so I think the first thing we should do is to go out and actually get an assessment of that building. That would be first for me. Second, I feel as if we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what a new library looks like, where that location is, and I think we all know the value of the library. I don't think the citizens of this community wanted to pay the amount to get us there, and so I'm at a loss of really what to do, but I think first steps are, let's get a report, let's see the status of that building. I think that's going to allow us to make some informed decisions of how much time do we really have. Sammy has given us counts on just the many people that use that facility. We've talked about when it was potentially going to be in John Toppet's Park, it could have been, an emergency facility as well. I like the idea of housing or childcare. What I do think is we are going to have to engage the community differently than we've done in the past to get this across the finish line. And I don't know what that looks like, but I know that there are a group of really smart people in this audience and at the dais that hopefully can help us get there. So those are my comments. Any comments, Councilor Kilmer?
I would kind of be interested in hearing from some of the folks in the audience to kind of gauge where they're at as well.
It's a great question. Janice, did you want to get up and speak?
Good evening. I'm Janice Longlinay, and I am the chair of the Library Board of Trustees. So A couple of things that I wanted to address. One, economic development in our community is paramount to the growth of our community. We're having a 400 housing unit development. People don't move businesses to communities that don't have quality of life. A library adds to the quality of life, and we cannot be the largest community on the Oregon coast and not have our own library. A library is not only about books, it's about community. It's a community center. It brings people together. Just some stats from, I'll give you the ones from October and then from the last fiscal year. In October, the library issued 196 new library cards. That means 196 new people got a card to go to the library, and that is 1 month. We had 72 programs and 1,600 people attended them. We've had 20,000 items checked out at the Coos Bay Library. Another 20,000 items were checked out at other locations that are part of the library district. I don't know, Sammy, tell me how to say that. Yeah, coastline. And we had 9,500 people walk through the door. In 2020, in fiscal year 24, so that's July of 23 through June of 24, 28,000 people took advantage of the refrigerated food option at the library. That is something that you don't see at most libraries. We have a food pantry, and it's cold food, it's produce, it's things that people can't just go to the food pantry to get. They can get it at the library, and 28,000 people took advantage of that. 63%, we saw a 63% increase in the use of the meeting rooms at the library. New meeting rooms would give us even more options for people to meet. 810 library programs in that fiscal year with 15,000 people participating. We only have 16,000 people in our town. And then we also had a 31% increase in library visits in that fiscal year. This is an important part of our community. It's important that we find a way to fix or replace this building before it collapses. And it will collapse. We've seen the splits in the wall. We've seen the water coming through. We've seen the roof having to be repaired again and again. And there's whole systems, air conditioning systems, heating systems that aren't working in this building because of the infrastructure of this building. The community needs to figure out how to do this. It's important that we have a library, a place for those people who need that community, who don't have the opportunity to have books at their house, who need a place to study, who need a place to find a job. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Janice. Any other comments? No?
I would just add, and I kind of advocated for this at the beginning, you know, the comments over and over are that we don't need libraries. Well, just what Janice expressed in her comments is this is more of a community building, and perhaps when we look at that, we change the narrative when we call it something other than just a library. It is a community center that houses a library.
Thank you, Councilor. Oh, yeah, come on up, Lenny.
No, everything's creaking. Susan Anderson, 557 North 4th Court. I've worked with both of these bonds, and I will tell you that she's right, but all she's talking about is the library programs. I sit on several foundations and I work in a lot of different community groups, and almost every group meets in that library at some point in time. That's around all the library programs. The number of people that I see, because I do not have internet at my home, I come down on the weekends, and the number of people I see sitting in the parking lot and around the library when the library's not open using the internet. We didn't even talk about internet usage. We didn't talk about interlibrary usage. The resources we have in that library that no one else has. Recently, League of Women Voters did a study on home rule for the county so that we can take a stand on it if it comes forward. And there's a document that you have to use to do in a home rule. There are 4 existing copies that we know of. 3 of them are in the state library in Salem. 2 can be used in interlibrary loan. 1 you have to go all the way to Salem for. Guess where 1 is? In our library in the Oregon collection. We're one of the few libraries that have it. There are lots of things like that that people don't think about, and that's just one thing, right? All of the people doing research, all of the people doing work that go in there and use the resources that folks don't think about because all they think about is it's just a bunch of books and it's not there. The number of people, Saturday we were there for a league thing, there were 35 people waiting outside in the rain, in the cold, for over an hour waiting for the library to open. That's unheard of. We are the largest library. We are the center for coastlines. The rest of the libraries along the coast that belong to that are worried because they know that no other library can handle that. We have to do something, and we have to make the community aware, because the folks who really support it don't live necessarily in the city limits, but they want to support the library, and we haven't tapped that, and we need to come up with a way to tap that. So,
thank you, Susan. Councillor Stevens, I see that your hand is raised.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's time we need to look for alternate realities here. And I know that some of our neighboring libraries have been really successful at thinking about these alternate realities, including the Curry Public Library. I know Jeremy Skinner is here with us tonight. I'm not sure if he's willing to talk, but I just think it's time, and we've seen over and over again that we have to start thinking outside the box. Similar to housing, this is not a one solution reality. We are going to have to come up with 10, 12, 15 different solutions to make our new library a reality. And I think it's time for us to really start thinking with innovation, with a regional lens, with an opportunistic lens, and we have to think outside the box here because our constituents have spoken. They said no over and over and over again. And it's time for us to come up with a different solution.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Matthews or Mayor Benetti?
Go ahead, Correct. Go.
It's unfortunate that the bond issue didn't pass, but we are in a position that, as Sarah has mentioned, and we all know, has been defeated multiple times. So we have to face reality. I personally don't believe that we can keep going down this road. We need to find a different direction. We need to pivot another way. Whatever that is, I'm not sure, but we need to think about that. I also agree that I think it's critical at this point. Councilor DeNovo mentioned that we need to get this evaluated and see where this building is, how stable it is or it's not stable, because we have employees in there, and then we got to make sure that they're in a safe habitat and get an idea of how much longer they have. And then we need to determine what path we take. I don't know what that path is, but we can't keep doing what we're doing because I just don't believe we're going to get the support. I think we need to be innovative, look for grants, look for partners. I mean, we just have to start maybe looking, as Sarah said, outside the box and finding a different perspective in a different way. I'm not sure what that is, but we need to think about it a different way.
Thank you, Mayor Benetti. Councillor Matthews?
Yeah, I'm trying to put my creative lenses on because I'm struggling with this ball not moving forward. So at this point, I think the community engagement and outreach is really important. Just we don't have full-on support right now for our current plan, so we just need to find ways in which we can get that support. And I think just listening to various people and what they are looking for in this community and in that kind of space, that community building space, and see how we can make this work. The argument that libraries are, you know, just no longer relevant is not something that is proven with facts. So we need to figure out a way to bring the people on board who are not currently seeing the return on that investment and see how we can make it pencil out for them. So I guess just reaching out to our community and just saying, well, what are we looking to invest in? We need a place for this library. We need this community building. It's essential for our community. What do you want to see with it? What will get you to support it?
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. I will say that this community didn't even pass a jail levy. So the reality is I'm not surprised that they didn't pass for the library either. So Sarah, Councillor Stevens, I always appreciate your candidness, and I do think we need to look for different opportunities. I think for those who have been working on this project for many years, I would argue that they believe that they were being innovative. So I don't think it's fair to say that going forward, what has been done in the past hasn't been innovative, but I do agree that we need to do something different and look at other communities where they're where they've been successful and we haven't. And I think that Councillor Kilmer, did you have another comment to make?
More a question. The public comment that Susan made regarding the, have we heard from other library facilities? And I think it's important that we make the distinction that it's not the overall, function of the library. It's the city's responsibility to build, support, and maintain the infrastructure that the library is housed in, and that's what this was. But I think it's, I just wanted to hear a little bit more. Have we heard from other libraries that are part of that network? Because I think she alluded to the fact that they are concerned.
Sammy is with us this evening. Sammy, do you have any comments in regards to that?
Sorry, not used to sitting
Yeah,
up
no
at the
worries.
big table here. There has been some, we do operate, or we have in our facility also the extended services, which offers a lot of things that people don't necessarily see on the surface, but things like moving the books and the materials around. That would have to be rehoused somewhere, and there is no other room. So we also do a lot of grant writing to support countywide services, and provide other support in a wide variety of ways to the other libraries. So it would impact the rest of the system without a doubt if we were not to exist.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. So I think
President DeNovo, can I just point out that we have Jeremy Skinner from the Curry Public Library on the call, and that he may have some additional input.
Mr. Skinner, would you, I would grace you a few minutes to give us some information if you'd like to participate.
Sure. I'll make this really quick. I understand that your mission is not to support all the other libraries. I would say that the other libraries are potentially sources of support for you, though, because as it has been mentioned, we do, the Coos Bay Library takes up the collection that we share. It's the cornerstone collection. I would say that collection allows, for example, my library in Gold Beach to add our resources in areas that we wouldn't normally be able to, because we're able to borrow out of the Coos Bay Library. So, yeah, not your mission to solve my problems, but I would make it my mission to figure out how to help yours and I think our other libraries would do the same. So I have not heard any formal discussions of bringing the other libraries into problem solving this, and I think we would like to be involved.
Appreciate you wanting to participate. And Sammy, I'll leave that with you perhaps. I don't know. I imagine you're talking to your fellow libraries along the Oregon coast, so maybe there is an opportunity to see how we can all work together to help support one another. Great, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. I appreciate that. So I think if there are no other comments, I think, Nicole, I think what you've heard from this council, and council jump in if I didn't get this right, is the first thing we'd like to do is get an assessment of the building. And then I think if you brought that back to council, that will help us make some informed decisions. We do have a white knight in the audience. I don't know if he wants to help us build a library too. No pressure, Greg. And I'm sorry to make light of a serious topic. So I think if we start there and go back to the drawing board and look for some different ways and involve maybe some different people in the conversation, perhaps it'll look a bit different and we can get this across the finish line.
Can I add one more thing?
Oh, please.
As a step towards community involvement, we are starting our new strategic plan for the library, which involves not the building, but the programs and services we offer. And I invite the public this Saturday to come and participate in that and tell us, what do you want?
Tammy, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, if there...
President DeNovo, can I just make one final comment on that? Is like, I agree with Sammy. And I think this is going to take a bunch of different ideas and different solutions. And I call on the public to bring those ideas and solutions to the table, because there is no white knight, right?
Yes.
Like with housing or with the library or with our infrastructure or with anything. And I call on the public to bring forward their ideas and solutions.
Well said. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Because we've been here for a bit, I'm going to be as short as possible with my list here. The first thing I was going to just acknowledge is that I appreciate the opportunity to have built my housing muscle a little bit. It has been a huge learning curve. There are so many resources and people who are working in this arena, and I meet somebody new every day. So it's been challenging, and I'm hopefully rewarding here soon. So I also wanted to speak a little bit too, because I think there may be some just general understanding needed around the election process, and I think we've spoken a little bit, but just one last time, give it another go. The City of Coos Bay waits for the official election results to be issued by the county clerk. The county clerk will be issuing those by December 2nd. That coincides nicely with your December 3rd meeting. At that point then, we would hold oath of office for every member of the council and mayor who was elected in this last election, and have a fully seated council at that point. I was going to speak to the storm, but it's, so far seeming to, knock on wood, not being horrible, but stay safe. Thanksgiving's next week. Hope everybody enjoys some time with friends and family. So,
great, thank you. Council comments. Councillor Kilmer.
Okay. Well, since we're approaching the holidays, it's time to start thinking about shopping local, and I encourage anyone and everyone to visit our downtown and Coos Bay Village merchants when they're thinking about what they're going to be doing for Christmas or the holiday gift-giving season. And then a reminder that on the 29th, Santa comes to Coos Bay, and thank you to the Visitor Center for helping to host that, and the Egyptian Theater that will be showing Elf. Be sure you bring new socks for the softball fight during that showing of Elf at the Egyptian. And if you have been shopping in downtown and you've been saving your receipts since November 11th, you can turn those in on the 30th. And for every $100 that you collect, you can turn them in on Shop Small Saturday, which is the 30th, from 10 to 3, and get a commemorative glass mug for shopping in downtown.
Thank you, Councillor Kilmer. Councillor Matthews.
I don't have any comments tonight. Just everybody stay safe with the storm outside.
Okay. Councillor Stevens?
Hi, thank you. I had the privilege of being on a all-day offshore wind conversation for the offshore wind roadmap, and I know that our city is going to be tasked with a bunch of decisions really soon related to offshore winds. And I want to encourage Nicole and city staff to be very real and upfront with city capacity to understand these rules and regulations related to offshore winds and the task at hand with us. And I think that's really important going into the 2025 legislative session. And I know we don't have a lot of extra capacity already. And so I just want to put a note out that Nicole, you and your team are going to have to be really real with what's possible and what you can understand and what you can digest in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. And last but not least, Mayor Benetti.
Well, I want to first of all thank you, Lucinda, for stepping in and taking this on. You did a great job, as always.
The only councillor, I'm sorry, the only councillor present and not online.
Yeah,
Is that what you meant, Mayor Benetti?
I think you might start with the comments by the one that was in person there, but you didn't. But anyway, I want to also thank the staff for all the hard work on these difficult issues we had this evening on our agenda. They're not easy, and so there's a lot of difficult ones that we're tasked with and got done, and so I appreciate that very much. I also want to take the time to remind everyone that the Christmas tree lighting is also on November 29th, besides Santa coming to the area, and I love the Elf movies and the sock throw. If you haven't done it, you need to go. It's an experience. There's one other thing I just want to get back to this FEMA thing. So I'm on a LOAC member, which is an advisory position to DLCD. And I questioned the Director Green with DLCD if they were going to take any action on this. And she said that DLCD would not be participating anyway with the FEMA buy-up. And she didn't know of any other agency in the state doing so. So anyway, I think that's good news that they're not going to participate and move forward on this. And with that, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe and take care.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Benetti. And I do not have any comments other than to thank the audience for your attention and really appreciate you coming out on a stormy night. And with that said, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.